Greetings, Patrick here. It's time for Dollar Tree. I always keep wanting to say that. Time for Dollar Theater, the Voters Edition. That's right. Me and the Cheetah had a choice of four films that we threw out you guys. We had Excision, The Voices with Ryan Reynolds, uh, Creature Feature, Eye of the Beast, and then we had Teeth. I hadn't seen any of these, and I got all these at no, actually, I got two. I got two at the library, and I got two at Salvation Army of all places, which is a notoriously hard place to get horror at for me anyway. Very rare that I get horror, and I actually, along with these two right here, I actually got last week's movie, The Rig. I got that there as well on the same run. So I put it out there for you guys to vote. You guys did. And today, me and the Cheetah, we watched and we'll discuss 2007's Teeth. This is a Dimensions Extreme Horror. Um, Sounds pretty ominous, but it really isn't. It's this is a this is a fun film. Fun. This is a lot of fun. I really like this movie quite a bit. Um, and the story is a young girl who named Dawn who's is in high school. She lives with her mom and her stepdad and stepbrother. In fact, the movie opens up ideal like with the one pan shot in the movie where they scanned the small town, and first you see it's a foreboding, of course. You see two nuclear cooling towers in the background, and they have steam coming out of them. And then you see that the young couple down below, they have a couple of kids playing in a kiddie pool, and the little boy splashing water on the little girl, and the dad says, hey, be nice to your sister, and he says, that's not my sister, and and he's rather adamant about it. And there's her sitting in the pool, and all of a sudden, a little boy cries out, and the mom and dad go over there, and lo and behold, the little boy's tip of his finger is gone. His finger is bleeding, and the tip of his finger is gone. And then we flash forward to high school, and we see that Dawn is part of a high school abstinence group called the Promise, and she is she's saving herself for marriage, and there's her friends are part of the group, though a couple more sort of reluctant, because they're teenagers, they're high schoolers, their sexuality is waking, and Dawn does her best to suppress it, and her boyfriend Toby is initially on board for that, but during a time where Toby and Dawn are together alone, Toby is getting rather aggressive, and in fact, he actually he's so aggressive that he causes Dawn to hit her head on a rock and sort of get dizzy, and then he takes advantage of that to force himself upon her. Except that she has a little bit of a self-defense mechanism, and it uses it. And Toby is Toby less, and so she leaves, and Toby doesn't. So, yes, it is funny for me because this movie, while it is a horror comedy, definitely a lot of comedy in it, um, but the situations are sadly a little bit too real, and that's where the horror comes in, because they're teenagers, their hormones are raging, and they don't understand that no means no, especially the dudes. So it's rather entertaining to see a guy who doesn't say no. Well, he pays for it, and he pays for it painfully. And I'm all aboard for that kind of movie. Uh, and that's what happens is that Don has figured out that Don's like, what the hell has happened? Because first he's in and then he's not. So she panics. She doesn't know what to do. She's totally scared. Toby doesn't she realizes that Toby ain't coming back. Um, and uh, 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 so Dawn goes back to back home, and she sees that her mom is really sick, and it's probably because of the nuclear power. They're living so close to the nuclear power plant, and she's probably gonna die, and she looks really sick, and her father's really upset because that's how the first wife passed away. And so, and of course, Dawn and her brother, her stepbrother, do not have a really good relationship. Brad is a asshole, and with a capital A, whereas Dawn is really light and airy, and you can tell by her room. She has collages and posters and hearts and unicorns, whereas Brad, he looks like a cross between a wannabe rockabilly guy and a black metal guy, and just two opposites. Uh, so anyway, so at the promise meeting, Dawn runs into her friends and so telling like she doesn't tell him anything, but she's on her mind. So then she runs into her friend Ryan, a fellow classmate, and he just nobody knows that Toby's gone, but Ryan, he goes ahead and asks Dawn out on a date, but she declines, because she's thinking maybe Toby's still gonna come back. But then she goes back to the swimming hole, to the cave where the assault happened, and there's no Toby. But Toby's penis is still hanging around, and in fact, is serving as a feast for a crab. Oh my gosh, this is awesome. So she's concerned, so she goes to visit a gynecologist, Dr. Godfrey, a male doctor, of course. And so she goes in there, and he is a prig. He's a prick. Definitely a pig. Anyway, he goes to examine her a little unorthodox, and well, he comes back like this. Started in like this, ended up like this. So they call him Stumpy, and so yeah, so he loses he loses his fingers because he's being inappropriate, and of course this is not doing anything. This is not helping Dawn's sanity any. She's like like she doesn't know what's going on. She can't trust the kids in her. She can't trust her peer group. Now she cannot trust the adults. Um, so uh, so and she keeps, finally she realizes, she sees the cops driving down to where they're at, and she realizes that they have found Toby. And so she's panicking, and she goes home, but her mom, even though Brad was at the house with his girlfriend, but her mom had fallen unconscious, so they have to take her to the hospital. And so then she goes back to Ryan for a little comfort, and she's really scared about, of course, they get close, and and in fact, Ryan gives her a little sedative, and she relaxes, and he's very nice to her, and they do have sex, and nothing happens. And it turns out that whenever she wants it to happen, the teeth won't come out. Vagina dentata, teeth in the vagina. As long as she's consensual, if she's able to have sex perfectly fine. It's when she doesn't want it to happen, and she gets, that's when her body reacts to it and starts to chomping. So initially, because she was relaxed, Ryan was able to have sex with her. And so it was really nice, and it's almost like, wow, this is all right. The next day, she's gonna go and talk to the police about Toby, and then Ryan says, maybe we could, have fun one more time, before you do that. So, so there they are. They're having sex again, and then the phone rings, and it turns out that Ryan is an asshole. Uh, he made a bet with his. He made his bet. Uh, he made a bet with his friends that he could have sex with her, and because she was one of the girls from the Promise, until she says I could have sex with her. So he made a bet, and sure enough, that's what he did. And he's bragging about it to his friends on the phone while they're doing it, which is a pretty bad move because as soon as he hangs up the phone and she realizes what he has done, well, you can take a guess. Uh, and the last guy who buys the farm is Brad. Brad, who's always had a thing for his stepsister, but has been a little scared of her because of what happened to him when they were both kids. Well, Dawn realizes that her mom's dead, and she notices that her stepdad has been attacked by the dog. They have Brad has a Rottweiler, and the dog bit the dad, and Dawn knows what she has to do. So she goes home. She fixes this up really nice. Then she goes inside there and she seduces Brad. And at first, Brad wants to go through the back door, but that's not really what Dawn wants. So she says, nope, flips him over and says, here you go. It's either this way or no way. Well, you can guess what happens. And believe me, and when the dog gets out, you really know what happens. And he deserves it. He deserves it. And you root for it. You clap in your hands because, yeah, he's a scumbag. Um, and so that being said, with her dad being, distraught, and mom's gone and Toby's gone, and basically her whole life has just been in a wash machine, Dawn decides to leave. She doesn't know where she's going to go, but she's going somewhere. Uh, and so, but unfortunately, her bike gets a flat tire, and this old geezer picks her up while she's hitchhiking. They drive to a hotel, they drive at night to a hotel, and the geezer is expecting something from Dawn. And it looks like first she's like trying to get out of the car, and then she realizes she has nothing to fear, and this really sinister smile comes on her face as she turns to the guy, because you know what's going to happen. Um, yeah, I like this movie quite a bit. I really did. I thought writer director Mitch Lichtenstein did a great job. Um, the movie stars. I got to tell you who stars in the movie because the cast is really good too. Um, of course it was. Because that's why we're booing the villain and rooting for the heroine. So Jess Weixler played Dawn, and Jess is a really good actress. She has done a lot of work. She's been, she's well known. She's well known. She's done a lot of indie films. Got to give a shout out for John Hensley who played Brad. Um, that's really weird. Is that he was really good at playing a scumbag. The brother, he was just like top drawer. He just really, really, really wanted to see him get his. So he did a great job as Brad. Josh Pius played Dr. Godfrey. He wasn't in there that long, but he was memorable. He was memorable. Lenny Von Dohlen, who played her father, was great. I did not know that Lenny Von Dohlen had actually passed away in 2022. I guess he had been sick for a while, and he had passed away. I had not known that. Um, and Yeah, I thought this is a highly original story. I tell you what, Jess Wexler though, in this, she just reminded me of, she really did come across like a Heather Graham. I mean, in fact, I had to double check because I'm like, she looks like Heather Graham. Um, and it's a part that you expect Heather Graham to play. Tell you the truth, because she's not afraid to do anything. Uh, but it was Jess Weixler, and she got some awards for this role. This film did win some awards, even though of the content of the subject matter. And in fact, during the director's commentary, Mitch Lichtenstein said that they had a hard time shooting this film. They shot this film down in Texas, and they had a really hard time with it because initially on the house they had rented out to shoot in, they wanted to block off the rest of the street so they could do scenes, and the neighbors wouldn't cooperate because someone got in their mind that they were shooting a porno film, which it wasn't the case, obviously. Then they approached a couple of hospitals, asking if they could film there real quick. And again, the subject matter came up, and the hospital said, "No, you can't shoot. You can't shoot here." Yeah. Why do I have a feeling that both the neighborhood and the hospital? Why do I have a feeling it wasn't the women that said no to it? It was the men. Just I don't know. Just a hunch, maybe. Um, yeah. So they had a hard time getting this movie filmed. It took about 40 days for them to film it, and it came out and it did like I said, it won some awards. Um, it didn't make very much money at the box office. The movie cost $2 million to make, and it returned 2.3 million. So not very much money being made back, but again, the subject matter. But this did come underneath the Dimension Extreme, and this movie was actually ironically too. This is where you're gonna really laugh. The Weinstein Corporation released this film underneath their Dimensions title. Yeah, Harvey Weinstein and this. Yeah, maybe Don should have went and had a casting couch session with them. It would have ended a lot of problems for a lot of people. Um, I thought the special effects were fine. Um, that includes several shots of you can take a guess. Um, and yeah, this is a lot of fun. I highly recommend this. And thanks for voting for it. All right. Real quick, that's it for us. We'll be back next week with another film. I'm not sure what we're putting up for our next four, but they'll be on my community tab. And if you've seen Teeth, I'd like to know your thoughts about it. Yeah, 2007. So you should be able to get this still on eBay and Amazon. This is not that old, and it should be out there for a reasonable price. Highly recommended if you're into horror comedy. If not, if you're a male and you are insecure, probably should pass on this. Women want to feel empowered, check it out. All right, we're out of here. Drop a comment down below. If you've seen Teeth, I'd love to hear your comments. I'll probably get a lot of, yeah, this isn't going to be my cup of tea, Patrick. No, I can't do this one. All right, well, hey, not everything's for everybody. Yeah, so drop a comment, let me know what you think, and we'll see you next Friday.